Welcome to Mental Fitness Fridays, another episode here. And today, wanted to go over a kind of a topic, a principle that I feel like kind of summarizes the last three mental fitness topics I've discussed, right? So this topic today is this idea of the ability to pivot, be flexible and not so rigid, right? And this kind of overarches it, bring us the last three together, right? And those last three, I'll go over those with the last three that we did, right? The last week's one was this idea of acceptance, accepting your reality, and how that can positively impact your inner dialogue. The week before that was the phrase, doing the best I can, and allowing yourself to really soak that one in and believe it as you practice it. And the very first one I did was that concept of positive movement. Even amidst maybe overwhelm or feeling stuck, sometimes how one small step can lead you into some of these bigger things. And so, knowing those three, bringing it together to me has really been this concept of pivot, the ability to pivot. So, I first heard this term was actually on a home workout. So, I'm involved with Peloton, right? And I do those, and I not only do the cycling, right, but I do all the other ones, yoga and strength and a mix of them. And so there's a instructor on Peloton that talked about this idea of pivot and this ability to pivot. This instructor, she was a former boxer, and she talked about how when she would pivot from things, it wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to stop, or I'm going to quit, or I'm going to give up. But it really is even this idea of movement, that I can move side, I can move backwards, even, right? But I'm still having some of this movement, still kind of having what I would probably consider this positive movement, right? Is this idea of pivoting. For me, it really hit. So I played basketball, right? All through high school and just love basketball to this day. And so as a basketball player, right, you have that pivot foot, right? That is stuck. It's grounded is more of the word that I think of now. And because you are grounded on that pivot foot, you can move. You can see other options, right? You can take that shot. You can maybe make that pass. Or if you've caught the ball right away, right, you can make a jab step move, right? You can go to the basket. You can do all these things. But with the ability to pivot, you are grounded, in that way. And you're able to really see options. And of one of the things that I've recognized is the ability to find options, especially when you feel like they're not there. When you feel maybe trapped or you feel stuck, you feel kind of restricted and I can't do this, right? I can't do that. And when you're able to pivot and move and change, with that change, what I've kind of found is it kind of brings some hope into some of these situations. It's like, I shared, right, a lot about whether it's kind of the triathlon, right, kind of trainings and doing these triathlons. And one of those ones when I was talking, I think about the doing the best I can moments was this idea of pivoting and this idea that, oh, like I really want to do this long workout, right? And training because I know this is what I need to do the best I can, the best I want to in this triathlon, and yet I don't have the time. And I start to feel the anxiousness. I start to feel the edge, and I started to see how that would impact, especially like relationships in my life. I'm a little more snappy. I'm a little bit more uptight, maybe towards my partner or my kids. And I recognized that. And until I was able to take kind of a breath and recognize this spot of, oh, wait, I can pivot. It might not be today because things have happened today, and I'm doing the best I can with the things that are happening today. Like, man, it took me longer to do my responsibilities, right? It took me longer to maybe see a client and, write up things that I needed to. And then all of a sudden I'm at the end of my day and I've got left, I would say time wise and energy wise, as I'm going to stretch. I'm going to have like this 5 to 10 minute stretch. But I felt and I started to see the positive feel and breath in that ability to pivot versus the constriction and the judgment and the messages that have happened before plenty of times for me that said, oh, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That's going to lead to, you failing, you being an embarrassment out there on the race, to all kinds of other things, from even like putting together this podcast. I had to pivot, you know, and being able to go from maybe feeling like my time is coming up and feeling overwhelmed to, okay, wait just a second. Let's put out, let's write a script for this, and let's, start kind of getting that movement again and feeling a little bit more of that breath. And some of the areas that I found it as well is those moments where, life has felt super overwhelming. And it's led in those, maybe the list of responsibilities or things to do. And I've noticed also those times that overwhelm leads to depression and moments where my motivation is just low. And I've had to check in with myself and remind myself to pivot. So instead of, I'm going to do this, and this today, instead, it was, have I eaten today? Or am I hungry? And if that's the case, let's pivot and do that first. And then find out what our next steps are and check in with that energy, right? And see how that is broken up a lot more of that constriction of like those judgments of this is all the stuff that I should have been doing today, and really feeling that. And so, it's led to, as I've been able to practice it more, this idea of pivoting, kind of a string of things that I do. And I just wanted to share those with you a little bit. And so when I pivot, it really starts with a moment of having to break up the expectations and judgments. And usually that means like a couple of breaths for me. I just need to take a moment and kind of breathe for a second. And when I recognize that breath, then I can bring some of the other messages in, like, hey, wait a second. Like we were talking about that reality of last week. I'm okay with where I'm at right now. I don't need to necessarily be as anxious or fearful of what's coming. And after I'm doing the I'm okay, the pivot leads to me then moving into that I'm doing the best I can phrase. Allows me a little bit more breath. And I'm starting to feel a little bit more hopeful. And then the next thing I know, I'm moving towards something that I want to do. I'm having a little bit more positive movement. And with those combined and kind of this concept of pivoting, it's really brought in more of the hope and movement, even amidst the times that have been hard and the times that have been struggles. And so I wanted to share that today. And for me, it's taken a while to soak in. It's taken me a while to practice. And still to this day, I'm working on it and reminding myself these times that, hey, I need to pivot, from the small things and practicing those, like, hey, I wanted to get this done, but that's not going to get done. So I'm okay. I know that I'm doing the best I can. And maybe instead of whatever it is, right? Maybe instead of this really big project I'm working on, putting out 2, 3, 4 podcasts at a time. Let's put it there, right? And instead of doing that, let's take that moment and, put down what my title is for this next one. And really bringing out, instead of that overwhelm, really more of that hope that, this is possible. And so that's what I wanted to leave with today, and letting you know that next week I'll go ahead and piggyback off of this topic, and I wanted to bring a story into it, one of kind of a struggle of mine, and a story that just, I think, brings about more of this idea of pivoting, and where I recognize that I could have used it more in my past. And so I hope that this is something that continues to be informative, as well as encouraging, as you're continuing to practice things like mental fitness. And so I look forward to you tuning in today, and then also being able to tune in next Friday for the second part, your ability to pivot. So with that, I want to leave you with: be curious, stay curious, without judgment. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey through mental fitness stories with John Steele. If you resonated with today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review on your podcast platform of your choice. Remember, your story is important, and so is your mental well-being. If you have a personal mental fitness journey you'd like to share, or topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes, reach out to us on social media or through our website. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, expert insights, and practical tips to help you cultivate a resilient mind. Until next time, take care of your mind, nurture your inner dialogue, and prioritize your self-care. Remember, you are not alone, and your mental fitness and well-being is worth the investment. Thanks for being a part of the Mental Fitness Stories community.